It is 8 p.m. and here are our top stories.
Our rights were violated.
The verdict is in. Denver paying millions to 12 protesters injured in the 2020 George Floyd protests.
I was attacked with no provocation whatsoever by Denver police.
The landmark decision that could pave the way for future legal action.
We haven't ended police brutality today, but we've sent a very clear message.
A surge of synthetic opioids pouring across Colorado.
We located about 45,000 pills last year.
And showing no signs of slowing down.
Just last week, patrol deputies in Adams County located over 20,000 pills of fentanyl.
I know how the system is supposed to work. It's not working.
A broken system exposed by Denver 7 investigates. Court-appointed guardians draining estates with no oversight.
Sometimes you're compelled to do something that is right.
Thanks for watching Denver 7 News on Local 3. I'm Bayan Wang.
I'm Danny New. A federal jury in Denver has awarded $14 million in damages to 12 protesters who were hurt by police during the George Floyd protests in 2020.
The jury ruled that Denver police violated their constitutional rights. Rob Harris spoke with those protesters today and joins us live in the newsroom with their reaction to this decision. Rob?
Yeah, and Bayan, this trial's been going on for 3 weeks. The jury heard testimony about injuries caused by police tactics during the protest, as well as failures in leadership and planning by police. Now, this trial surrounded the First and Fourth Amendment rights of the protesters. The First Amendment guaranteeing the right to peacefully assemble, and the Fourth Amendment protecting against unreasonable searches or arrests. There were also accusations within Denver police training and policy. The protesters were hit by pepper spray and less lethal ammunition like beanbags, which led to injuries from these protesters. The jury ruled in favor of each protester, though to varying degrees. But still, all the protesters I spoke to today after this trial felt victorious.
I wonder if the city of Denver thought we were just going to roll over and take it. I suspect that they might have. I don't know, but we didn't. I'm so pleased and so thankful to the jury. So proud of my co-plaintiffs, so proud of our lawyers. The system got this one right today. So on we press.
So $14 million in total have been awarded, with individual protesters getting amounts ranging from $750,000 to $3 million. In a statement this evening, the city brought up changes to DPD policy regarding the use of less lethal munition for the purposes of crowd control. They did acknowledge that they're continuing to evaluate policies and training as well. But this is not the end of the legal road for the city and county of Denver when it comes to the protests of 2020. So tonight at 10 o'clock on Denver 7, got our full conversation with the plaintiffs after the verdict and the next trial just down the road that could lead to even more payouts and policy changes. Bayan.
I'll see you at 10. Thank you. First Lady Jill Biden has arrived in Colorado. She touched down at DIA just after 6. She's attending events with the Democratic National Committee, the Latin American Education Foundation, and the White House Initiative Latino Economic Summit in Denver this weekend. This is the First Lady's second trip to Colorado so far this year. She was here in January touring damage from the Marshall Fire.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services was also in Denver today. This afternoon, Javier Becerra joined Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera along with local teachers for a discussion on youth mental health. Part of that discussion also focused on teen drug use, including fentanyl. According to the CDC, teen overdose deaths have tripled over the past 2 years. Becerra talked about the Biden administration's efforts supporting the distribution of fentanyl strips, which can detect drugs laced with fentanyl.
We want to save a life, and if you may be taking a drug that's laced with fentanyl, you just don't realize how potent that fentanyl is, and a lot of our fellow citizens are dying. So we think it's more important to save a life, because the evidence has showed that we do save lives by letting people know what they're about to put in their body.
And Colorado is at a critical moment in the opioid epidemic. Deadly overdoses involving fentanyl are continuing to rise, including that tragic loss of 5 lives at a Commerce City apartment last month.
Just horrible. Denver 7's CV Cotton spoke with investigators who say they remain diligent in trying to take these powerful synthetic opioids out of the community.
Take these people off the streets.
A scared mother shared her concerns with us earlier this month, hoping the people who sold her daughter a fentanyl-laced pill would soon be arrested. She says the dealers are still on the street.
They're still dealing to the children here in your community in Thornton, Colorado.
But busting dealers takes time, according to the Adams County Sheriff, Richard REIGENBORN.
They may say, well, but my son or daughter is getting it from this one person. That one person's getting it from somebody else. And so we're trying to cut off that supply chain. not just there, but farther up as well.
His agency works closely with the North Metro Task Force. The force investigates illicit drug operations in the area, and fentanyl has become a dangerous opponent. Investigators here with the North Metro Task Force say in 2020 they seized minimal amounts of fentanyl, but come 2021 there was a huge increase. Last summer during this drug bust, the force seized a little more than 40,000 fentanyl pills, and this year they expect to find even more.
Just last week, patrol deputies in Adams County located over 20,000 pills of fentanyl.
Sheriff REIGENBORN says the uptick has led to close calls.
And just this last year, one of our deputies opened up a package that had fentanyl in it, and he had to start administering Narcan to himself.
The solution to the fentanyl crisis has many factors, REIGENBORN says, but he believes their part, finding the dealers, is a priority.
We're actually doing the hand-to-hand deal so that we don't have an informant or somebody's child placed in danger. So we're trying to take our undercover officers and get them in a place to where they can actually do the hand-to-hand deal, so that when we take that case to the DA, we can say, I personally did the drug deal between him and them.
But he emphasizes the detective work can and will take time.
We're not playing checkers. This game isn't going to be over in 5 minutes. We're now playing chess.
And the pawns in this game have become anyone buying almost any drug off the street. In Adams County, I'm CB Cotton, Denver 7.
All right, CB, thank you. Now, according to a preliminary report by CDPHE obtained by our partners at the Denver Post, overdoses were a driving factor in the drastic increase in deaths during the past year. So let's go in depth. CDPHE's preliminary data showed nearly 1,800 people died from overdoses, an increase from 700 more than before the pandemic. And while CDPHE data doesn't break down the exact type of drugs involved, deadly overdoses involving fentanyl have been increasing across the entire state. During the first 9 months of 2021, they were already up 42% from all of 2020.
Colorado lawmakers want better protections for those who are under a court-appointed guardianship. This comes after Denver 7 investigates expose how guardians and conservators are bleeding estates of their assets with not as much oversight as we'd think. The bill went before a committee this week that says guardians must notify family members within 7 days of a loved one dying or being moved to a nursing home. As of now, a court can place a person under guardianship if they are deemed mentally unfit to handle their affairs, and if a family member is not able to step in, court-appointed strangers then have full control of their life, including their medical, financial, and legal decisions. Denver 7 investigator Jennifer Kowaleski was there at the meeting, which took a dramatic turn.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, sometimes you are compelled to do something that is right.
More on the amendment introduced in committee and what's next for the bill tonight on Denver 7 News at 10.
Some bumps in the track for RTD's A-Line trains. Numerous trips between Union Station and the airport have been canceled this week because of staffing issues. Under federal law, each trip requires a second crew member. The company that provides those additional crew members say they're down 30% of the staff they normally provide to RTD. RTD says because of strict requirements to work the A-Line, it can't just move staff from other routes.
A small portion of that pool of people they provide are able to be the second crew member, are trained to be a second crew member on commuter rail. So it's not like we can pull from the whole group of people.
RTD says it's trying to find ways around the staffing crunch. In the meantime, they recommend riders sign up for emergency alerts for when trips are canceled or delayed.
Colorado is now recovered from all the jobs lost during the first 2 months of the pandemic. The Department of Labor and Employment says Colorado has gained more than 381,000 jobs over the past 22 months, eclipsing the 374,000 lost during the early days of the pandemic.
Those total gains of 381,800 over that period represent a recovery of about 102% of those lost jobs at the start of the pandemic. And that ranks as the 11th fastest rate of recovery in the nation.
Colorado's unemployment rate also continues to fall. The state says unemployment dropped to 4% last month, down from 4.2% in January. To put that in perspective, 4% is the lowest that it's been since February of 2020, when unemployment was at 2.8%.
Coming up on Denver 7 News at 8, lawmakers take a huge step toward expanding Medicaid in Colorado.
Too often I see children who wind up in the emergency room really sick for something that could have been prevented with primary care.
The new bill expanding coverage for undocumented children and pregnant women.
If you like warm weather, you are in the right place. Temperatures warming up nicely tomorrow and throughout the entire weekend. I'll have your forecast coming up.
Plus, an indigenous twist on a classic musical.
Don't trip, baby, I'ma try. Fly high till I kiss the sky.